Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation. Today we're going to explore the fascinating topic of life processes. This is the first slide, so I'd like to start by introducing our subject. We'll be discussing what life processes are, why they are important, and how they help living things survive and thrive. Over the next few slides, we'll delve into the key processes that keep life going. I'm excited to have you here, so let's get started. Let's take a closer look at the contents of this slide. We start with the basic criteria to decide whether something is alive. This helps us understand what characteristics distinguish living things from non-living things. Moving on, we cover activities, which are the various processes that living organisms perform to survive and function properly. Next, we delve into life processes, which include essential functions like nutrition, respiration, excretion, and transportation. These are the core activities that sustain life. For example, respiration in humans and respiration in plants are covered separately, highlighting how different organisms carry out this vital process. We also explore nutrition in animals and plants, emphasizing how different organisms obtain and utilize food. Following that, we look at excretion, which is the process of removing waste products from the body. Transportation refers to the movement of substances within the body, such as blood in humans or sap in plants. The slide then shifts towards assessment methods, including various types of questions like 3 marks questions, 4 marks questions, and 5 marks questions, which are important for testing understanding. There are also MCQ questions and answers, which are great for quick revision and self-assessment. Finally, we see that there are specific sections dedicated to answers for MCQs, as well as detailed explanations for assertion reasons questions. All these components together help us comprehensively understand the key concepts of life processes and how to evaluate knowledge about them effectively. All right, so when we're trying to figure out if something is alive, there are certain criteria we look at. These criteria help us distinguish between living organisms and non-living things. First, we consider whether the organism can grow and develop over time. Growth is a fundamental sign of life because it shows that the organism is actively changing and maturing. Next, we look at whether it can reproduce, meaning it can produce new individuals, ensuring the continuation of its species. Reproduction is essential because it relates to the survival and evolution of life forms. We also examine if the organism responds to its environment, which indicates it can sense changes and react accordingly. This responsiveness is a key characteristic of living things. Additionally, we look at whether it maintains homeostasis, meaning it can regulate its internal environment to stay stable despite external changes. This ability to keep internal conditions balanced is crucial for survival. And finally, we see if it carries out metabolism, which involves all the chemical processes that convert energy and sustain life. All these criteria together help us determine whether something is truly alive. Remember, these points are interconnected and together form the foundation of understanding what defines life. Let's talk about one of the most important criteria for determining if something is alive, and that is movement. All living things move, and what's fascinating is that they do so without needing any help from outside sources. Some movements are really obvious, like when an animal swings its limbs or a person walks. But other movements are much more subtle, like the molecular movements happening inside cells. These tiny, invisible movements are actually essential for all the processes that keep living things alive. So, whether it's a large, visible motion or a microscopic shuffle, movement is a key sign that something is alive. Let's take a closer look at life processes. These are the fundamental activities that sustain living organisms. They include things like nutrition, which is how organisms take in and use food, respiration, the process of converting nutrients into energy, and excretion, which involves removing waste products. Additionally, growth and reproduction are key processes that ensure the survival and continuation of a species. Understanding these processes helps us see how all living things function and stay alive. They are interconnected and form the basis of life on Earth. As we explore further, remember that these processes are the foundation of biology and help explain the diversity and complexity of life we observe around us. Life processes are the fundamental activities that all living organisms perform to stay alive and function properly. These are the basic processes that ensure an organism's survival and overall health. The key life processes include nutrition, respiration, transportation, and excretion. Nutrition is about how organisms take in and use food to get energy and grow. Respiration is the process of releasing energy from food, which is essential for all activities. Transportation involves the movement of substances like oxygen, nutrients, and waste products within the organism. Finally, excretion is the removal of waste materials that are no longer needed or could be harmful. Together, these processes form the foundation of life, helping organisms maintain their internal balance and continue functioning effectively. Understanding these processes helps us see how all living things stay alive and thrive in their environments. Nutrition is essentially the process by which an organism takes in food and then uses it to sustain itself. It's not just about eating, it's about how the body utilizes that food to perform vital life processes. When we talk about nutrition, we're referring to both the intake of food and the way our body breaks it down, absorbs nutrients, and transforms it into energy and building blocks for growth and repair. This concept is fundamental because good nutrition is at the core of overall health and well-being. It supports everything from our immune system to our energy levels and even our mental clarity. Throughout this presentation, we'll see how understanding nutrition helps us make better choices and promotes healthier lifestyles. Remember, it's not just about food, but about how our bodies make the most of what we eat to keep us functioning at our best. Respiration is a fundamental process that happens in our bodies every day. It's how food is burned in the cells, and this happens with the help of oxygen. When we breathe in, oxygen enters our lungs and then gets transported to our cells. Inside the cells, this oxygen is used to break down the food molecules, like glucose, releasing energy. This energy is what powers all our activities, from thinking and moving to growing and repairing. So, respiration is essentially our body's way of converting the food we eat into usable energy, which is vital for maintaining life and overall health. It's a key concept that ties into our understanding of how our bodies function efficiently. Transportation is a vital process in our body, and it involves moving essential substances from one part to another. Specifically, it carries food, oxygen, water, and waste products throughout the body to keep everything functioning smoothly. Think of it as a delivery system that ensures each part gets what it needs and that waste gets removed efficiently. This process is crucial because, without transportation, our cells wouldn't receive the nutrients and oxygen they need to produce energy or get rid of waste properly. So, in the context of overall health, transportation helps maintain balance and supports all our bodily functions. It's like the body's transportation network, keeping everything connected and working together seamlessly. Excretion is a vital process in our bodies, and it involves the removal of waste products. These waste products are produced as a result of various metabolic activities happening inside us. Without excretion, these wastes could build up and become toxic, which would be harmful to our health. So, the body has several systems in place to efficiently get rid of these wastes. Understanding this process is key to appreciating how our bodies maintain internal balance and stay healthy. Today, I want to talk about nutrition, which is a fundamental aspect of overall health and well-being. When we think about nutrition, we're really focusing on the nutrients our bodies need to function optimally. These include macronutrients like carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, as well as micronutrients such as vitamins and minerals. Good nutrition supports our energy levels, boosts our immune system, and helps prevent chronic diseases. It's not just about what we eat, but also about how we eat, being mindful of portion sizes, meal timing, and food quality. In the context of our overall presentation theme, which emphasizes the importance of a balanced lifestyle, proper nutrition acts as the foundation. It influences how we feel, perform, and recover, whether we're working, exercising, or simply going about our daily routines. Remember, making informed food choices can have a profound impact on our health, and small, consistent changes often lead to the most sustainable results. Life on Earth essentially depends on carbon-based molecules, and most of the food we consume is also made up of these same molecules. When we look at what living organisms use as raw materials, it's primarily food, water, and air. These are the basic ingredients that sustain life. Now, when we talk about nutrition, we're referring to the process of taking in food and how our bodies utilize it. This process is crucial because it helps us build our bodies, supports growth, repairs damaged parts, and provides us with the energy we need to go about our day. So, in essence, nutrition is the vital link that connects the raw materials from our environment to the functioning and maintenance of our bodies, which ties into the overall theme of understanding how life sustains itself on a molecular level. Now, let's talk about the two main modes of nutrition. First, we have autotrophic nutrition. This is how organisms like green plants and some bacteria make their own food. They do this by using simple inorganic substances, mainly carbon dioxide and water, and with the help of sunlight and chlorophyll. Essentially, they are able to produce their own food from raw materials. On the other hand, we have heterotrophic nutrition. This is found in all animals, fungi, and some bacteria. These organisms do not make their own food. Instead, they get their nourishment either directly or indirectly from plants. So they depend on other organisms for their energy and nutrients. Understanding these two modes is crucial because they highlight how different organisms sustain themselves and how they fit into the broader ecosystem. Autotrophs are like the producers, creating food from nothing, while heterotrophs are consumers, relying on others for their sustenance. Let's look at some examples of organisms that use different types of nutrition. For instance, amoeba, paramecium, birds, fishes, and humans. These are all examples of organisms that perform holozoic nutrition, which means they take in food directly, then digest and absorb it. It's like how we eat and then process our food internally. Next, we have parasitic nutrition. Examples include cuscuta, orchids, ticks, lice, leeches, roundworms, tapeworms, and plasmodium. These organisms get their food from a living host without killing it. They depend on the host for nourishment, often harming it in the process. Then there is saprophytic nutrition, seen in organisms like mushrooms, bread mold, yeast, and some bacteria. These organisms feed on dead or decaying matter. They break down the food externally outside their bodies and then absorb the nutrients. It's a crucial process in nature, as it helps recycle organic material. Now, all these modes of nutrition, saprophytic, parasitic, and holozoic, are types of heterotrophic nutrition. Each has its unique way of obtaining food, but shares the common feature of relying on others for nourishment. Understanding these different methods helps us appreciate the diversity of life and how organisms adapt to their environments. Let's take a closer look at nutrition in plants. Plants, unlike animals, can't move around to find food, so they need a different way to get the nutrients they require to grow and thrive. Primarily, they absorb nutrients from the soil through their roots. These nutrients include elements like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which are essential for various plant functions. Nitrogen, for example, is vital for leaf growth and the overall development of the plant. Phosphorus plays a key role in energy transfer and root development, while potassium helps regulate water and nutrient movement within the plant. Additionally, plants require water, which acts as a solvent, helping to transport nutrients from the soil into the plant and throughout its tissues. Photosynthesis is another critical aspect of plant nutrition. Through this process, plants convert sunlight into energy, using carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil. This energy is then used to produce glucose, which serves as the plant's food source. Understanding how plants obtain and use nutrients helps us appreciate their survival strategies and highlights the importance of healthy soil for agriculture. It also connects to our broader theme of how living organisms adapt and sustain life through efficient nutrient utilization. Let's talk about photosynthesis, which is essentially how plants make their own food. They do this by using carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil, all in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, the green pigment in leaves. This process is vital because it allows plants to produce the energy they need to grow and thrive. The food they create is a type of carbohydrate, specifically stored as starch, which serves as a reserve energy source. An important byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen, which is released into the environment. This process not only sustains the plant, but also provides oxygen for other living beings. Understanding photosynthesis helps us see how plants contribute to life on Earth and highlights their role in maintaining ecological balance. Let's take a closer look at the equation of photosynthesis displayed here. Sunlight provides the energy necessary for this process. The equation shows that 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, or CO2, combine with 12 molecules of water, H2O, in the presence of sunlight. This reaction, facilitated by chlorophyll, results in the production of 1 molecule of glucose, C6H12O6, which is a form of stored energy. Additionally, 6 molecules of water and 6 molecules of oxygen, O2, are released as byproducts. Chlorophyll plays a crucial role here. It's the pigment that captures sunlight and drives this entire process. This equation is fundamental because it highlights how plants convert light energy into chemical energy, supporting life on Earth. Remember, this process not only fuels the plant, but also provides oxygen and energy for other organisms, making it a cornerstone of the Earth's ecosystem. Let's talk about the process of photosynthesis. First, it involves the reduction of carbon dioxide by hydrogen to form carbohydrates, which are essentially the plant's food. This is a key part of how plants convert light energy into a form they can store and use. Next, during photosynthesis, light energy is converted into chemical energy. This process also involves splitting water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen, a vital step that provides the electrons and protons needed for the chemical reactions and releases oxygen into the atmosphere. A crucial molecule in this process is chlorophyll, which absorbs light energy. Think of chlorophyll as the plant's solar panel, capturing sunlight and fueling the entire process. Photosynthesis doesn't happen all at once. It occurs in 3 main steps. Understanding these steps helps us see how plants efficiently turn sunlight into the energy we depend on, connecting closely to the bigger picture of energy flow in ecosystems. Let's talk about chlorophyll, which are the green pigments we find in leaves. If you take a close-up look at a cross-section of a leaf under a microscope, you'll notice tiny cells that contain green, dot-like structures. These structures are called chloroplasts. Inside these chloroplasts is where chlorophyll resides. This green pigment is crucial because it plays a key role in photosynthesis, allowing plants to convert sunlight into energy. So, understanding chlorophyll helps us see how plants harness the sun's energy to produce food, which ties back to the overall theme of how plants sustain life on Earth. Now let's talk about stomata. These are tiny pores found on the surface of leaves, and they play a crucial role in gas exchange. Think of them as the plant's breathing holes. Each stoma is controlled by a pair of guard cells, which act like gatekeepers. When the guard cells take in water, they swell, causing the pore to open. This allows gases like carbon dioxide to enter for photosynthesis and oxygen to exit as a waste product. Conversely, when the guard cells lose water, they shrink, and the pore closes. This regulation helps the plant manage water loss and maintain a balance between gas exchange and hydration. So, in the bigger picture, stomata are essential for the plant's survival and efficiency in photosynthesis, linking water regulation with gas exchange in a seamless way. Let's take a closer look at the activities involved in this phase. First, it's important to understand that these activities are the core actions that drive the project forward. They help us implement our strategies effectively and ensure we're meeting our objectives. As we go through each activity, I want you to think about how they connect to the overall theme of collaboration and innovation. These activities aren't just isolated tasks. They are part of a larger effort to create meaningful impact. By focusing on these key points, we can better see how each activity contributes to the success of the project and how they interrelate to form a cohesive plan. This understanding will help us stay aligned and work more efficiently as a team. Let's look at how chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis. I'll demonstrate this with a croton plant, which has variegated leaves. First, we keep the plant in a dark room for 3 days to deplete all the stored starch. After that, we expose it to sunlight for about 6 hours. This process allows the plant to produce starch only in the areas where photosynthesis occurs. Next, we take a leaf from the plant and mark the green areas on a sheet of paper. To prepare the leaf for testing, we dip it in boiling water to make it soft. Then, we dip it in alcohol and heat it in a water bath to remove the chlorophyll and decolorize the leaf. After washing the leaf in water, we dip it in a dilute iodine solution. What we observe is that only the green parts of the leaf turn blue-black. This clearly shows that chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis, because the starch is only present in the green, chlorophyll-containing areas. This experiment visually confirms that chlorophyll plays a crucial role in the process of photosynthesis. Let's look at how we can demonstrate that chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis. First, I took a potted croton plant with variegated leaves. I kept it in a dark room for 3 days to deplete any stored starch. After that, I exposed the plant to sunlight for about 6 hours. Then, I carefully took a leaf from the plant and marked the green areas on a sheet of paper. Next, I dipped the leaf in boiling water to make it soft and easier to handle. Then, I placed it in alcohol and heated it in a water bath. This step helps to decolorize the leaf by removing the chlorophyll. After washing the leaf in water, I dipped it in dilute iodine solution. What I observed was that only the green parts of the leaf turned blue-black, indicating the presence of starch. This shows quite clearly that chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis, because only the green, chlorophyll-containing areas can produce and store starch. This experiment reinforces the idea that chlorophyll plays a crucial role in converting light energy into chemical energy during photosynthesis, which is fundamental to plant life. Let's take a closer look at nutrition in animals. This is a crucial aspect because it directly impacts their health, growth, and survival. Animals require a balanced intake of nutrients to perform their daily activities effectively. These nutrients include proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and minerals, each playing a vital role in their overall well-being. For example, proteins are essential for growth and repair, while carbohydrates provide the energy animals need to stay active. Fats serve as a concentrated energy source and help in the absorption of certain vitamins. Vitamins and minerals are necessary for various metabolic processes and maintaining a healthy immune system. Understanding how animals obtain and utilize these nutrients helps us better manage their care, whether in the wild or in captivity. It also ties into the broader theme of how biological processes support life and adaptation. So, in essence, nutrition is fundamental to an animal's health and their ability to thrive in their environment. Amoeba is a fascinating example of a unicellular animal, and it primarily lives in water environments. One of the most interesting aspects of its survival is how it takes in food. Instead of having a mouth like humans do, the amoeba uses tiny, finger-like projections called pseudopodia to reach out and surround its food. These pseudopodia help the amoeba to engulf food particles and form a food vacuole, which is like a small stomach inside the cell. Inside this vacuole, digestion happens, breaking down the food so the amoeba can absorb the nutrients it needs. Any food that the amoeba can't digest is then expelled out of the cell through its surface. This whole process highlights how amoebas efficiently manage their nutrition despite being so simple in structure. It really connects to the overall idea that even unicellular organisms have specialized mechanisms for survival. Now let's take a closer look at the main organs of the digestive system. These include the mouth, where the process begins, followed by the esophagus, which connects the mouth to the stomach. The stomach itself is a key organ for breaking down food, and then we have the small intestine, where most nutrient absorption happens. The large intestine is next, responsible for absorbing water and forming waste, and finally the anus, which is the exit point for waste. In addition to these organs, there are vital glands that support digestion. The salivary glands produce saliva that starts the breakdown of carbohydrates right in the mouth. The gastric glands in the stomach secrete acids and enzymes to digest proteins. The liver produces bile, which helps emulsify fats, and the pancreas secretes enzymes into the small intestine to further break down carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. The intestinal glands also release enzymes that facilitate digestion. So, when we talk about nutrition in human beings, it primarily takes place within this complex system, specifically in the digestive system. This system comprises the alimentary canal, which is the continuous tube from mouth to anus, and the glands that produce essential enzymes. These enzymes are crucial because they break down food into smaller, more manageable molecules that our body can absorb and use for energy, growth, and repair. Understanding this integrated system helps us see how vital proper digestion is for maintaining overall health and well-being. It's the foundation that supports all other aspects of nutrition and health. Water is absorbed and the waste material is removed through the anus. This process occurs in the large intestine, where water is reabsorbed from the remaining food residue, helping to form solid waste. The waste is then expelled from the body through the anus. Now, moving on to the small intestine, the glands in its walls produce intestinal juice. This juice contains enzymes that are crucial for digestion. These enzymes convert carbohydrates into glucose, fats into fatty acids and glycerol, and proteins into amino acids. The walls of the small intestine have tiny, finger-like projections called villi. These villi are rich in blood vessels and significantly increase the surface area for absorbing nutrients. This means the digested food is absorbed into the blood and transported to all cells in the body, providing the energy and materials needed for various functions. Once the nutrients are absorbed, any undigested food moves into the large intestine for further processing and eventual elimination. In the small intestine, food also mixes with bile from the liver and pancreatic juice from the pancreas. Bile helps break down fats into smaller globules, making them easier to digest. Pancreatic juice contains enzymes like trypsin, which breaks down proteins, and lipase, which continues breaking down fats. Focusing on the upper part of the small intestine, called the duodenum, gastric glands here produce gastric juice. This juice contains pepsin, hydrochloric acid, and mucus. Pepsin starts breaking down proteins, while hydrochloric acid creates an acidic environment that activates pepsin and helps digestion. Mucus protects the stomach walls from the acid's corrosive effects. After this process, the food moves into the next part of the small intestine. In the stomach, the food is further broken down by the teeth and mixed with saliva from the salivary glands. Saliva contains salivary amylase, an enzyme that starts converting starch into sugar. Once the food is sufficiently processed, it passes through the esophagus into the stomach, ready for further digestion. Let's take a closer look at respiration. This process is fundamental because it's how our bodies generate the energy we need to function every day. Essentially, respiration involves the exchange of gases. Oxygen comes in, and carbon dioxide goes out. It's a critical part of maintaining our overall health and metabolic processes. When we breathe, we're not just taking in air, we're fueling our cells with oxygen, which they use to produce energy. This energy powers everything from muscle movement to brain function. So, understanding respiration helps us see how interconnected our respiratory and circulatory systems are, working together to keep us alive and active. It's a key piece of the bigger picture of how our bodies operate efficiently. Now, let's look at how water, ATP, and energy are connected. When we talk about water and ATP, the key idea is that water helps break down ATP into ADP, or adenosine diphosphate, and in the process, energy is released. This energy is what our cells use to carry out various functions. So, you can think of ATP as the main energy currency inside our cells. When energy is needed, ATP is broken down with water, releasing energy and turning into ADP plus a phosphate group. But then, how do our cells get more ATP? That's where respiration comes in. During respiration, our cells essentially burn food, glucose, for example, with the help of oxygen. This process releases energy, which the cell captures to reassemble ATP molecules from ADP and inorganic phosphate. And it's important to remember that respiration mainly happens in the mitochondria, which are like tiny power plants inside our cells. They take the food, use oxygen to break it down, and produce the energy we need, stored again as ATP. So, in summary, respiration is the process that converts food into usable energy, and ATP acts as the energy storage molecule that our cells can quickly access when needed. This cycle of breaking down ATP to release energy and resynthesizing it during respiration is fundamental to how our bodies function efficiently. Now, let's explore the two main types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. In anaerobic respiration, which happens in the absence of oxygen, glucose is broken down into pyruvate in the cytoplasm. Without oxygen, this pyruvate is then converted into lactic acid, releasing energy. This process occurs in muscle cells during intense activity when oxygen is scarce. On the other hand, in aerobic respiration, oxygen is present. Glucose is again converted into pyruvate in the cytoplasm, but this time, with oxygen, the pyruvate moves into the mitochondria. There, it's further broken down into carbon dioxide, water, and a significant amount of energy. This process is more efficient and occurs in most organisms during normal activity. Additionally, in yeast, when oxygen is absent, glucose undergoes fermentation. In this process, pyruvate is converted into ethanol, carbon dioxide, and energy. This is similar to anaerobic respiration in muscle cells, but results in ethanol instead of lactic acid. To sum up, anaerobic respiration produces less energy and ends with either lactic acid or ethanol, depending on the organism, while aerobic respiration produces more energy with carbon dioxide and water as end products. Both processes are vital for different situations and organisms, but overall, aerobic respiration is more efficient in energy production. Respiration in humans is a vital process that provides our bodies with the oxygen we need and helps get rid of carbon dioxide. It's an essential part of how our bodies produce energy. When we breathe in, air travels through our nose or mouth, down the trachea, and into our lungs. Inside the lungs, oxygen passes into the blood through tiny air sacs called alveoli. From there, it binds to red blood cells and is transported to every cell in our body. At the same time, carbon dioxide, which is a waste product from our cells, is carried back by the blood to the lungs. When we breathe out, this carbon dioxide is expelled from the body. This entire process is crucial because it not only supplies oxygen for cellular respiration, but also maintains the balance of gases in our blood, which is essential for overall health. Understanding respiration helps us see how interconnected our respiratory and circulatory systems are, working together to keep us alive and functioning properly. This process highlights the importance of lung health and proper breathing in our overall well-being. Air enters our body through the nostrils, and here, where the process begins. The hairs and mucus lining in the nasal cavity act as filters, trapping dust particles and other small particles from the air we breathe in. From there, the air moves through the pharynx, then passes through the larynx, and continues down the trachea. The trachea is interesting because it has rings of cartilage that keep it open and prevent it from collapsing, especially when there's no air passing through. Next, the air reaches the bronchi, which are like main branches leading into each lung. These bronchi then divide into smaller tubes called bronchioles, and at the very end of these tiny tubes are the alveoli. These alveoli are crucial because they're surrounded by blood vessels, allowing the exchange of gases. Oxygen moves into the blood, and carbon dioxide moves out. The alveoli are designed to maximize surface area, which makes gas exchange more efficient. Now, looking at the big picture, the main organs involved in this process are the nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, lungs, and the diaphragm. Each part plays a vital role in ensuring we get the oxygen we need and remove carbon dioxide effectively. This entire system is fundamental to respiration in humans, supporting life by enabling continuous gas exchange. When we breathe in air, the muscles of the diaphragm contract, which means they tighten and pull downward. This movement causes the chest cavity to expand, creating more space inside. As a result, air is pulled into the lungs to fill that expanded space. When we breathe out, the opposite happens. The diaphragm relaxes and moves upward, reducing the size of the chest cavity. This contraction pushes air out of the lungs. This entire process is a key part of how our respiratory system works, allowing us to take in oxygen and expel carbon dioxide efficiently. It's a simple but vital mechanism that keeps us alive and functioning every day. Let's talk about transportation. This is a crucial aspect that underpins many of the challenges and opportunities we face today. Transportation connects people, goods, and services, making it the backbone of our economy and daily life. When we look at transportation, it's important to consider both its efficiency and sustainability. How can we move faster, more reliably, while also reducing our environmental impact? Innovations like electric vehicles, improved public transit, and smarter logistics are key to achieving that balance. Additionally, transportation impacts urban planning, quality of life, and even public health. So, as we continue to develop and innovate, keeping transportation sustainable and accessible will be central to our overall goals. Let's talk about some of the key components of our circulatory system. First, we have capillaries, which are very narrow blood vessels that connect arteries and veins. These tiny vessels are where the important exchange of substances happens. Food, water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other waste products pass between the blood and our cells through these capillaries. Next, we have veins. Veins carry impure blood, meaning blood that has collected waste products, back to the heart from all parts of the body. They are generally thin-walled and have valves to prevent backflow, ensuring the blood moves in the right direction. On the other hand, arteries carry pure, oxygen-rich blood from the heart to all parts of the body. These vessels are thick-walled to withstand high pressure. Now, within the blood itself, different components play vital roles. Red blood cells are responsible for transporting oxygen throughout the body. White blood cells help protect us by killing harmful microbes. Platelets are essential for blood clotting. They help prevent excessive blood loss when we're injured. The plasma, which is the liquid part of blood, carries food, water, carbon dioxide, nitrogenous wastes, and other substances. So in summary, our blood is a complex transport system. It consists of plasma, red and white blood cells, and platelets, all working together to ensure our body functions smoothly. The circulatory system, which includes blood, arteries, veins, capillaries, and the heart, is truly the main transportation network in our bodies. The heart is a muscular organ that works tirelessly to pump blood to all parts of the body. It has 4 chambers, which are like separate rooms that help the heart do its job efficiently. The upper chambers are called atria, and the lower chambers are called ventricles. The ventricles are especially important because they pump blood out to different organs, so their walls are thicker and stronger to handle that task. The right and left chambers are separated by a wall called a septum. This septum is crucial because it prevents the mixing of oxygen-rich blood from the lungs with oxygen-poor blood coming from the rest of the body. This separation ensures that our organs receive the right type of blood they need to function properly. Additionally, between the atria and ventricles, there are valves. These valves act like gatekeepers, making sure blood flows in the correct direction and doesn't flow backward. This careful control is essential for maintaining an efficient and effective blood circulation. Understanding the structure of the heart helps us appreciate how this incredible organ keeps us alive and healthy, constantly working behind the scenes to support our overall well-being. Since blood flows through the heart twice in one cycle, this process is called double circulation. When the left atrium relaxes, oxygenated blood from the lungs enters it through the pulmonary vein. Then, when the left atrium contracts, the left ventricle expands, allowing the blood to flow into it. Next, the left ventricle contracts forcefully, pumping oxygenated blood out through the aorta to reach all parts of the body. After circulating through the body, the deoxygenated blood returns to the heart via the vena cava and enters the right atrium. When the right atrium contracts, the right ventricle expands, filling with blood. The right ventricle then contracts, pumping this deoxygenated blood through the pulmonary artery to the lungs. In the lungs, carbon dioxide is removed, and oxygen is absorbed into the blood. The oxygenated blood then returns to the left atrium, and the cycle begins again. This continuous circulation is essential for delivering oxygen and nutrients to tissues and removing waste products, highlighting the heart's vital role in maintaining overall health. Lymph is a fascinating part of our body's fluid system. It's a clear, colorless fluid that fills the spaces between our cells, helping to keep everything balanced. It's actually formed from plasma, the liquid component of our blood, which leaks out of tiny blood vessels called capillaries. Once this plasma escapes, it becomes lymph, and its journey is quite important for our health. Lymph drains into small vessels known as lymphatic capillaries, which then connect to larger lymph vessels. These vessels eventually join into big veins, returning the fluid back into our bloodstream. This process is crucial because it helps transport digested fats from our intestines, fats that are otherwise hard to move through the blood directly, and it also helps drain excess fluids from around our cells, preventing swelling. Another key point is that lymph isn't just a fluid. It also contains special cells called lymphocytes. These are our immune warriors. They attack germs, bacteria, and viruses, helping to protect us from infections. So, in the bigger picture, lymph is essential for maintaining fluid balance, transporting nutrients, and defending our body against pathogens, all of which are vital for overall health and well-being. Let's take a look at how hearts differ across various organisms. Starting with fish, their hearts are quite simple, having only 2 chambers. Because of this, blood gets oxygenated directly in the gills, which is efficient for their aquatic life. Moving on to amphibians and reptiles, their hearts have 3 chambers. This setup allows some mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, which is okay because these animals don't need to use a lot of energy to maintain a constant body temperature. Their body temperature tends to match the temperature of their environment, so their circulatory system reflects that. Finally, in mammals and birds, the hearts are more complex, with 4 chambers. The right and left sides are separated by a septum, preventing the mixing of oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood. This separation is crucial because it ensures a more efficient oxygen supply, which is necessary for their high energy demands and maintaining a constant body temperature. Understanding these differences really highlights how the structure of the heart adapts to the specific needs of each organism. Now, let's talk about how plants transport food and other essential substances throughout their structure. First, we have the process called translocation, which is responsible for moving food from the leaves to the other parts of the plant. The key players here are the phloem, which is made up of sieve tubes and companion cells. Food produced in the leaves during photosynthesis is transferred to the rest of the plant through the phloem, and this process requires energy, specifically ATP molecules, to actively move the food. Once in the phloem, water enters due to osmotic pressure, and this water helps push the food along the transport pathway. Switching gears, let's look at the xylem, which is responsible for transporting water and minerals from the roots to all parts of the plant. The xylem consists of vessels and tracheids, which are specialized structures that facilitate this upward movement. Water and minerals enter the roots mainly through diffusion, and then, thanks to transpiration, basically the evaporation of water from the leaves, a suction force is created. This force pulls water and minerals upward through the xylem vessels, ensuring the plant stays hydrated and nourished. So, in summary, both the phloem and xylem are vital conducting tissues that work together to ensure the plant gets the food, water, and minerals it needs to grow and thrive. This intricate system of transportation is a fundamental part of how plants function and sustain life. Let's talk about excretion. Excretion is a vital process that helps our bodies maintain balance and stay healthy. It involves the removal of waste products that are generated from metabolic activities. These waste products, if not eliminated, could become toxic and disrupt our body's functions. The primary organs involved in excretion are the kidneys, which filter blood to produce urine, removing excess salts, water, and waste. Additionally, the skin plays a role through sweat, helping to eliminate salts, water, and other waste materials. The lungs are also crucial, as they expel carbon dioxide, a waste product of respiration. Overall, excretion is essential because it helps regulate the composition of our body's fluids and prevents the buildup of harmful substances. Understanding this process ties into the broader theme of how our body maintains internal balance and health. In multicellular organisms, the removal of waste products is handled by specialized organs, like the kidneys or liver, that are designed specifically for this purpose. These organs efficiently filter out waste, ensuring the organism stays healthy and balanced. In contrast, unicellular organisms, which are made up of just one cell, rely on a different process called diffusion. Waste products simply pass out of the cell into the surrounding environment naturally, without the need for complex organs. Now, excretion is the overall process by which our bodies eliminate metabolic waste products, those substances produced during various chemical reactions necessary for life. This process is vital for maintaining the body's internal balance, or homeostasis. So, whether through specialized organs in complex creatures or diffusion in simpler ones, excretion plays a crucial role in keeping us healthy by removing what we no longer need, or what could be harmful if accumulated. The excretory system is made up of several key structures that work together to remove waste from our bodies. It includes a pair of kidneys, which are vital for filtering blood, a pair of ureters that carry urine from the kidneys to the bladder, the urinary bladder itself which stores urine, and the urethra through which urine is expelled. Each kidney contains many small units called nephrons, and these are the actual sites where blood filtration and urine formation happen. Understanding how these parts function helps us see the importance of the excretory system in maintaining our overall health and balance. As we discuss excretion in humans, keep in mind that this system plays a crucial role in removing metabolic wastes and excess substances, ensuring our body's internal environment stays stable. This is a vital part of how our body keeps functioning properly. Now, let's talk about how the useful products in our urine are reabsorbed. After the filtration process, amino acids, glucose, salts, and other valuable substances are reabsorbed by the capillaries surrounding the tubular structure. These reabsorbed nutrients then enter the renal vein, which carries them back into the bloodstream, ensuring our body retains what it needs. Each nephron, the functional unit of the kidney, has a cup-like structure called Bowman's capsule. Inside this capsule is a bundle of tiny blood vessels called the glomerulus, which is where the initial filtration happens. The Bowman's capsule then leads into a tubular structure, which joins a larger collecting duct. The renal artery brings in nitrogenous waste products like ammonia, urea, and uric acid, along with excess water and salts. These wastes are filtered out in the nephron, passing through the tubular structure into the collecting duct. From there, the waste travels down the ureters into the urinary bladder, and finally, it's expelled from the body through the urethra as urine. This entire process highlights how the nephron not only filters waste, but also reabsorbs essential substances, maintaining the body's balance. It's a beautifully efficient system that keeps our internal environment stable and healthy. Now, let's talk about how plants handle waste products. Some waste materials are stored in the leaves and are removed when the leaves dry out and fall off. This is part of the natural process of leaf shedding. Other waste products, like excess salts or minerals, are stored in the vacuoles inside plant cells, acting as storage tanks. You might also notice that some waste, such as gums and resins, are stored in the old xylem cells, which are part of the plant's transport tissue. Additionally, plants can remove waste through their roots, releasing substances into the soil. Moving on to gaseous waste, during respiration, plants produce carbon dioxide, and during photosynthesis, they generate oxygen. Both of these gases are removed through tiny openings called stomata. This exchange is essential for maintaining the plant's internal balance. Similarly, excess water is also expelled through the stomata in a process called transpiration. This process not only helps regulate water levels, but also contributes to the overall water cycle in nature. So, in summary, plants have various ways to excrete waste, whether stored in leaves, vacuoles, old xylem, or expelled through roots, and they efficiently manage gases and water through transpiration via the stomata. These mechanisms are vital for their health and their role in the environment. Now, let's take a look at some multiple choice questions, or MCQs, which are a great way to test our understanding. These questions are designed to reinforce the key concepts we've discussed so far. When approaching MCQs, it's important to read each question carefully and consider all the options before selecting an answer. They help us identify areas where we might need to review further and deepen our comprehension. Throughout the presentation, we'll see how mastering these types of questions connects to overall learning and application, making sure we're well prepared for real-world scenarios. So, let's keep these questions in mind as a useful tool for consolidating our knowledge. Let's examine some key concepts from this slide. First, when we look at the types of nutrients, we see options like carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and fats. These are fundamental to our diet, but it's important to understand which ones are chiefly digested in the stomach. Carbohydrates and fats are primarily processed there, with fats being mostly digested in the stomach before moving to the intestines. Next, we have questions about measuring blood pressure. The correct instrument for measuring blood pressure is the sphygmomanometer. Normal blood pressure values are around 120/80 of Hg, which is considered healthy for most adults. Understanding these standards helps us monitor cardiovascular health effectively. Moving on to autotrophic organisms, these include green plants and some bacteria, which can produce their own food through processes like photosynthesis. This contrasts with heterotrophic organisms that rely on consuming other organisms. In terms of plant physiology, the process where water vapor exits through stomata is called transpiration. This process is crucial for water movement within plants and also helps in cooling. When discussing the circulatory system, in a closed circulatory system, blood is enclosed within vessels. The heart acts as the pump, maintaining this circulation efficiently. Regarding respiration, oxygen is vital for cellular activities, and the exchange of gases occurs at the level of the alveoli in the lungs, facilitated by the process of diffusion. The opening and closing of stomatal pores depend on guard cells, which regulate water loss and gas exchange in plants. Their movement is influenced by factors like turgor pressure and environmental conditions. For the kidneys, filtration units are called nephrons. They are essential in filtering blood and forming urine, helping maintain the body's fluid and electrolyte balance. Lastly, an important note is that not all glands are directly involved with digestion. For example, the adrenal gland is primarily involved in hormone production and is not part of the alimentary canal. These concepts are interconnected, forming a comprehensive understanding of body functions and plant processes, which are all vital to the overall theme of health and biology. Let's take a closer look at assertion and reasons. These are fundamental tools in logical reasoning and critical thinking. When we make an assertion, we're essentially presenting a statement or claim that we believe to be true. The reasons, on the other hand, are the justifications or evidence that support that assertion. It's important to understand how these two work together. A strong reason directly supports the assertion, making it more credible and convincing. Conversely, if the reasons are weak or irrelevant, the assertion loses its strength. In the context of the overall presentation, grasping the relationship between assertions and reasons helps us evaluate arguments more effectively. It allows us to distinguish between sound reasoning and fallacious or unsupported claims. So always ask yourself, does the reason genuinely support the assertion? Are there logical connections or are there gaps? Recognizing this connection is key to developing sharp analytical skills and making well-founded conclusions. Let's analyze these statements carefully. First, we see that xylem tissue is responsible for translocation, which means it helps move water and minerals from the roots to the rest of the plant. This is a key point because it highlights the role of xylem in supporting plant functions. The assertion here is that translocation of food occurs in plants, which is true, but it's primarily the phloem that transports food, not xylem. So there's a bit of a mismatch here. Moving on to the next pair, we have the four-chambered heart found in mammals with advanced body functions. This is correct because mammals, including humans, have a four-chambered heart that efficiently separates oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. The assertion that this heart does not mix oxygenated and deoxygenated blood is also true, and this separation is crucial for maintaining high metabolic activity. Next, in photosynthesis, food is made using energy from sunlight, while in respiration, food is converted into energy. They are indeed opposite processes. Photosynthesis builds up food using light energy, and respiration breaks down food to release energy, which makes respiration essentially the reverse of photosynthesis. Now, regarding the kidneys, most of the filtrate produced during filtration is lost through sweating, but in a healthy adult, the initial filtrate can be about 180 liters per day. However, the actual volume excreted as urine is only about a liter daily, because the kidneys reabsorb most of the filtrate. This process ensures the body maintains water and salt balance efficiently. Finally, talking about the lungs, they always contain a residual volume of air even after forceful exhalation. This residual volume ensures that there's always some air left so that the lungs can continue gas exchange without collapsing and to allow enough time for CO2 to be released and O2 to be absorbed. So, in summary, these statements highlight vital aspects of plant and human physiology, emphasizing the importance of specialized structures and processes that sustain life. Now, let's take a look at the 3 marks questions. These are a great way to test your understanding of the key concepts we've discussed so far. When approaching these questions, focus on clarity and precision in your answers. Remember, they often require you to explain ideas thoroughly, so take your time to connect your points logically. These questions also help reinforce the overall theme of the presentation, which is about mastering the core principles and applying them effectively. Keep in mind that providing well-structured responses not only demonstrates your knowledge, but also your ability to communicate complex ideas clearly. So, approach each question thoughtfully and use them as an opportunity to deepen your understanding. Let's examine some organisms that obtain food through parasitic nutrition. 2 common examples are tapeworms and lice. These organisms live on or inside their hosts, deriving nutrients directly from them, often causing harm in the process. Moving on, how do fungi obtain their food? Fungi are decomposers. They absorb nutrients from organic matter by secreting enzymes that break down complex substances into simpler forms they can absorb. This mode of nutrition is called saprotrophic nutrition. Now, shifting focus to guard cells. Their primary function is to regulate the opening and closing of stomata on the leaf surface. When guard cells absorb water, they become turgid, causing the stomatal pore to open. Conversely, if water is lost or not available, the guard cells become flaccid and the stomata close. This mechanism helps in controlling gas exchange and water loss. Let's move to some reasons behind specific features in our respiratory and circulatory systems. First, why is the glottis covered by the epiglottis? The epiglottis acts as a lid, preventing food or liquids from entering the windpipe during swallowing. Next, why are lung alveoli covered with blood capillaries? This close association allows efficient exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the lungs and blood. Lastly, the wall of the trachea is supported by cartilage rings to keep the airway open and prevent collapse during breathing. Now, considering the human heart, why do the 2 ventricles have thicker muscular walls than the atria? Because ventricles need to pump blood forcefully to the lungs and the rest of the body, requiring more muscular strength. On the other hand, why are capillary walls only 1 cell thick? This thin wall facilitates easier and faster exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste products between blood and tissues. Finally, let's look at the main components of the plant's transport system. The 2 key components are xylem and phloem. Xylem is responsible for transporting water and minerals from the roots to the rest of the plant, while phloem carries food manufactured in the leaves to other parts of the plant, supporting growth and storage. Understanding these systems helps us appreciate how plants sustain life and grow efficiently. Let's take a moment to discuss 5 marks questions. These are typically short, focused questions that test our understanding of key concepts. They require concise, precise answers, so it's important to be clear and to the point. When answering these questions, always identify the core idea or fact being asked for and avoid unnecessary details. Remember, the goal is to demonstrate your grasp of the fundamental concepts quickly and accurately. These questions are a great opportunity to reinforce the main points we've covered so far and to show your comprehension. As you prepare for these, think about the most important concepts we've discussed and how to articulate them effectively in a few words. This skill is crucial because it reflects your overall understanding and helps in exam situations. So, focus on clarity, accuracy, and brevity when tackling 5 marks questions. Let's explore some key aspects of photosynthesis. First, during this process, 3 important events occur: the absorption of light by chlorophyll, the conversion of light energy into chemical energy, and the synthesis of glucose from carbon dioxide and water. Now, the role of stomata in this process is crucial. They act as tiny openings on the leaf surface, allowing gases like carbon dioxide to enter and oxygen to exit, thus facilitating the overall process. Moving on to the experiment that shows sunlight is essential for photosynthesis. We can take a healthy plant, cover part of its leaf with black paper, and keep it in sunlight. After a few hours, we test for starch in both covered and uncovered parts. The uncovered part will turn blue-black, indicating starch formation, proving that sunlight is necessary for photosynthesis to occur. Understanding these processes helps us appreciate how plants produce oxygen and food, supporting life on Earth. Let's take a moment to look at some multiple-choice questions, or MCQs, and their answers. These are often used to assess understanding and reinforce learning. When reviewing MCQs, it's important to consider not just the correct answer, but also the distractors, or the incorrect options, to understand why they might be tempting but ultimately wrong. This slide emphasizes the value of practicing with MCQs as a way to prepare for assessments or real-world applications, because they help us think critically about the material. Remember, the goal isn't just to get the right answer, but to understand the reasoning behind it. By thoroughly analyzing these questions, we reinforce key concepts and improve our problem-solving skills, which is essential for mastering the overall content of this presentation. So, keep in mind that MCQs are a valuable tool in your learning toolkit, and approaching them thoughtfully will enhance your comprehension and retention. Let's take a closer look at some key concepts here. First, we see the number 8, which might relate to a question or a point in our discussion. Moving on, the number 4 appears, highlighting another important aspect. Now, focusing on B, proteins. Proteins are essential biomolecules that perform a wide range of functions in our bodies, from building tissues to acting as enzymes. They are fundamental to life. Next, Q8 refers to a question, and the answer involves a sphygmomanometer, which is the device used to measure blood pressure. Speaking of blood pressure, the typical reading of 120/80 of Hg is considered normal and healthy. We also see 11 and 7, which might be referencing other questions or points, but let's focus on the next major concept: green plants and some bacteria. These organisms play a crucial role in photosynthesis, converting light energy into chemical energy, which supports life on Earth. Then there's transpiration. This is the process by which water vapor is lost from plants, mainly through small openings called stomata. It's vital for nutrient transport and temperature regulation in plants. Absorption, indicated by Q10, is a key process where nutrients are taken up by roots from the soil, allowing plants to grow and develop properly. Moving on, D. Water in guard cells refers to how guard cells control the opening and closing of stomata by changes in water content, regulating gas exchange and water loss. We also see vessels, which are part of the circulatory system, responsible for transporting blood throughout the body, delivering oxygen and nutrients. Number 2 and 9 seem to be referencing other questions. For example, B. HB likely stands for hemoglobin, the protein in red blood cells responsible for oxygen transport. D. Nephrons are the functional units of the kidney, crucial for filtering blood and maintaining fluid and electrolyte balance. Number 5 points to the adrenal glands, which produce hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, helping us respond to stress and regulate metabolism. Finally, number 1 with MCQ answers reminds us that multiple-choice questions help reinforce our understanding of these vital concepts, tying everything together in our overall learning journey. Let's take a moment to look at what makes a strong 3-mark answer. First, clarity is key. You want to make sure your response directly addresses the question without unnecessary information. Second, depth of understanding is crucial. Show that you really grasp the concept by providing relevant details and explanations. Third, organization matters. Structure your answer logically so it flows smoothly and makes sense to the reader. When we combine these elements, your answer becomes not just complete, but compelling and easy to follow. Remember, these 3 marks are an opportunity to demonstrate your knowledge clearly and confidently, reinforcing the overall message of the presentation. Let's explore some key features of the heart first. The atria are responsible for receiving blood from the veins and then pumping it into the adjacent ventricles. Because their job is mainly to receive and transfer blood, their walls are quite thin. In contrast, the ventricles need to pump blood forcefully into the arteries. Specifically, the right ventricle sends blood to the lungs, and the left ventricle sends it to the rest of the body. This requires thick, muscular walls, with the left ventricle being even thicker to generate the necessary force. Moving on to the capillaries, these tiny blood vessels play a crucial role in the exchange of materials, nutrients, wastes, and gases between the blood and tissue fluid. This exchange is vital for maintaining the health of tissues and proper functioning of the body. Shifting gears to plants, their transport system mainly consists of xylem and phloem. Xylem transports sap mostly upward, carrying water and minerals from roots to leaves through vessels and tracheids. On the other hand, phloem transports food materials in both directions, up and down, via sieve tubes, ensuring that nutrients reach all parts of the plant. Now, the guard cells have a fascinating role too. They regulate the opening and closing of stomata, which are tiny pores on the leaf surface. When water flows into these guard cells, they become turgid or swollen and bend in a way that opens the stomatal pore. This process helps control gas exchange and water loss, which are critical for the plant's survival. So, in summary, whether it's the heart's muscle layers, the capillaries' exchange function, or the plant's transport and regulation systems, each component plays an essential role in maintaining the overall health and functionality of living organisms. Now let's look at the last slide in our presentation. First, we have the tracheal rings, which are C-shaped. These rings are crucial because they provide structural support to the trachea. They prevent the trachea from collapsing, especially during inhalation when the pressure inside can drop. At the same time, they allow for an uninterrupted flow of air, ensuring efficient breathing. Next, we have the lung alveoli. These tiny structures are where the actual gas exchange happens. The alveoli form the respiratory surface of the lungs, and their walls are richly supplied with blood vessels. This close contact with blood vessels allows oxygen to pass from the alveolar air into the blood and carbon dioxide to move out of the blood into the alveoli to be exhaled. This exchange is vital for respiration and maintaining the body's oxygen needs. Finally, the epiglottis. This small flap of tissue plays a protective role during swallowing. Its main function is to prevent food and water from entering the windpipe and lungs, directing them instead toward the esophagus. This prevents choking and ensures that the airway remains clear for air passage. By understanding these structures, we see how the respiratory and related systems work together seamlessly to support breathing, protect our airway, and facilitate gas exchange. Key themes in understanding human anatomy and physiology.